Is President Trump obstructing justice? 3D printed guns cause an uproar. And the New York Times hires a woman who is outed as an anti-white bigot. Coming up on Today with 2 cents. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Today with 2 cents. We haven't had an episode in a while, so it's good to be back. I've said many times that I am sick and tired of hearing about the Mueller investigation into Russian collusion, but there were only a few headlines anyone seemed to talk about this week, so we'll have to take a look at this one. The media is now asking whether or not President Trump is obstructing justice by tweeting about the Manafort trial.
On day 2 of Paul Manafort's trial, the president did something we have never seen any other president do. He deliberately, willfully, and with premeditation interfered with that trial. He tweeted, "These old charges have nothing to do with collusion, a hoax." So there's the president of the United States telling the Paul Manafort jury that what they are witnessing is a hoax. In another tweet, the president compared his former campaign chairman to the murderous gangster Al Capone and then told the Manafort jury that Paul Manafort is, quote, now serving solitary confinement, although convicted of nothing. The president is finding every way he can to try to tell the Manafort jury what he used to say about Paul Manafort very directly, that Paul Manafort is a good guy. We know exactly what would have happened in court today if Donald Trump had tweeted the opposite about Paul Manafort. If Donald Trump had tweeted that Paul Manafort is a disgrace to the USA. If Donald Trump had tweeted that Paul Manafort is guilty. Paul Manafort's lawyers would have immediately moved for a mistrial, and the judge would have been forced to grant a mistrial and end the Manafort prosecution.
Look, here's all I have to say about this. I'm not on Trump's side or Mueller's side in this. I am, after all, an ANCAP and oppose the political election of leaders anyways. But, in the context of the law as it currently stands, I say if Mueller has evidence that Trump somehow colluded with the Russians to illegally change the outcome of the 2016 election, then let him come forward with it. However, at this point, Donald Trump could have tweeted that he hopes that Manafort is given a fair trial, and the mainstream media would have said that by saying he wants Manafort to have a fair trial, he was actually obstructing justice and telling the jury to find him not guilty. They've demonstrated very clearly that they hate him so much that anything and everything he says will be interpreted as criminal behavior no matter what. While perhaps improper for someone in a position of his authority, Trump did not specifically instruct jury members or public officials to affect the outcome of the trial, and so I don't see how this tweet could pass any objective test for obstruction. Heck, the Manafort trial doesn't even have anything to do with collusion anyways. This whole effort on the part of the media to get Trump impeached is ridiculous.
Hey, how about this trial, huh? And all its details. Let's discuss them.
He said not to!
Oh, hey, you know how the judge told us not to make up our minds beforehand? Let's make up our minds.
Griffin, shut up!
In perhaps the most talked about news story this week, a federal judge has blocked the release of plans for 3D printed guns.
Overnight, a federal judge issuing that temporary restraining order to stop the release of blueprints to make those untraceable guns. These weapons are fully functional. You can see them there. They're made using a 3D printer, and they are just as deadly. Everything from handguns to assault-style rifles. Now, while these 3D printers are very expensive, they are becoming more broadly available, including in schools, and that's part of the cause for concern. The guns can be made without serial numbers, which means no background checks and completely untraceable. And anyone, including someone who is underage or even a serious criminal, could build them, some of them almost entirely made out of plastic, which makes them even harder to detect. Now, Senate Democrats, local leaders, gun control advocates have all sounded the alarm. More than 8 states in the District of Columbia are suing the Trump administration, arguing the so-called ghost guns would threaten public safety.
There has been no shortage of discussion about 3D printed guns this week. But I've gotta say, this whole discussion is pretty ridiculous. Downloading copyrighted music and movies is also illegal. How many people get away with this on a daily basis? Plus, with encryption, virtual private networks, and cryptocurrencies, it's getting more and more impossible for the government to enforce laws regarding the illegal sharing and purchasing done over the internet. Well, 3D printed guns are still not up to par with manufactured guns, and obtaining manufactured guns is still cheaper. I predict that time will bear out that any hope the state had of future mass gun confiscation and a strictly enforced firearms ban is a thing of the past. Say hello to freedom, people. And to would-be criminals, you can count on your would-be victims being armed.
Hey, listen, Joe, you think you can get us all guns?
No, Peter, they're too dangerous. Besides, you can't just go get a gun. You have to be certified in gun safety. Go through an extensive background screening process.
Got him.
Oh, how'd you get him so quick?
That was easy. Like pressing that easy button at the office supply store.
In today's day and age, it seems that a remotely risque tweet that you put out 5 years ago can cost you your job, your house, and everything you own. Well, that's unless, of course, you're a liberal, white-hating bigot. Recently hired New York Times employee Sarah Jeong is keeping her job despite explicitly racist tweets she made in the past against white people.
The latest hire for the New York Times editorial board comes with impressive credentials. Harvard law grad, articles in The Atlantic, Washington Post, and the Times Magazine. But Sarah Jeong also comes with the baggage of inflammatory and racist Twitter posts, which unleashed a fierce backlash on some conservative websites. Jeong tweeted between 2013 and 2015 that white men are groveling goblins and BS. Dumbass blanking white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs blanking on fire hydrants. Oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men. I dare you to get on Wikipedia and play things white people can definitely take credit for. It's really hard. The Times said in a statement today that her journalism and the fact that she is a young Asian woman have made her a subject of frequent online harassment. For a period of time, she responded to that harassment by imitating the rhetoric of her harassers. She sees now that this approach only served to feed the vitriol. She regrets it, and the Times does not condone it.
Love, tolerance, peace. These are the things leftists believe in. Unless you're a white, straight, cisgendered male. Then you ought to be executed for your mere existence. And don't worry, we'd call for the firing of anyone on the right who made similar statements against blacks, but we know Sarah didn't really mean it, so we'll keep her on the job. Hypocrites much? Then again, who cares what the New York Times says anyways?
You're racist.
And after a few weeks hiatus, it's time again for the Weekly Hottie. Drum roll, please. This week's Weekly Hottie is model Chase Carter, and she's swaying her hips your way.
Sometimes life, that's the way it goes. What you get is what you see. Comment ça va, comme ci, comme ça. Everybody say la vie. Sometimes life, that's the way it goes. What you get is what you see. Comment ça va, comme ci, comme ça. Everybody say la vie.
Didn't cover quite as many stories this week, but it seems no one wanted to talk about anything else. Anyways, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth.